we're good.
Hi, guys, and welcome to episode 9 of the Yinzhers podcast. I'm your host, Samantha James, alongside Jordan DeFigio and Morgan.
That should tell you what kind of week we're having.
Morgan Urtso.
Oh my God. Well, you guys can tell how my day and week is going.
Yeah.
How is your guys' week?
About the same.
I mean, I don't know like what is in the air
Pollen.
around the United States. Yeah, so much pollen because we're all, different time zones, but my brain is dead, fried.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Obviously.
Just call me Morgan for the week because that's exactly how I feel.
Oh my God. Yeah. I feel that on a spiritual level.
I did have my show, and that is like two medals.
Whoa. Way to go.
So proud to be
First place in both my classes. Thank you, guys.
I know. I saw you're doing another one now, right?
Yep. Prep started yesterday.
Dang.
I'm either a really awesome hard worker or a psycho. And I think it's the latter because I'm also lazy. So, yeah, I'm excited. It was so much fun. I cannot express how much fun it was.
Good.
So it was worth it.
At least there's that. Yeah, at least I didn't hate it. And I was in prep for like 3 months to do something that I absolutely despised.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. I couldn't do it. Cannot. So
Yeah.
I applaud you on that. And
thank you.
I think you'll kill your next one too, because you're dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys.
On another note, it is Joe Hayden's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Joe.
Joe, you are one of my favorite players on the Steelers. I'm so happy you are back this year to lift more weights for us. And I hope you had the best birthday ever.
Yeah.
I hope it was kick ass.
For sure. I'm just so happy that you wanted to be back.
Yeah, for real.
It's not the case for everybody. Thank you.
Volunteers and not hostages.
Yeah. We love you, Joe. Cheers. Happy birthday.
Cheers, Joe. Sorry, Morgan. Cheers with your water.
Cheers with my half-gallon water bottle.
Good for you. It's better for you than beer. That's for sure.
But,
Well, it depends on what your goal is, I guess.
Better for what? Better like mental state? Because no.
Like today, I could not have just done water, for sure. In other Steelers news, though, transitioning on from Joe Hayden's birthday, James Conner signed a 1-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals for, is it like $1.25 million?
Yes, fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
Fully guaranteed, and a $500,000 signing bonus, and that is included.
Right.
Good for him. I'm very. I know that it was definitely the right move for the Steelers to let him go. Still sad though. I'm still really sad because I love him, and there was a tiny part of me that was like, maybe we'll bump into each other somewhere, and then we'll fall in love. And now he's over in Arizona. So Sam, if you see him, put in a good word. Let him know that Jordan misses him.
I'll just send a tweet that I know all the good spots in Arizona. So
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, that is a good connection.
Yeah.
I think. What'd you say?
He's just one of those guys that, like, yeah, when he leaves, you still root for him.
Which is good. I think I like that we have so many of those guys leaving this year, coming off of a couple of seasons where we had departures from guys like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, because that was just so it was like hostile whenever that was just bad breakups. And so to have guys leave and be able to be sad that they're leaving, but like not mad and
like
also
happy for them and know that they deserve, like James Conner deserves this fresh start. Everyone knows, or the majority of Steelers fans know, that this was the right move for the Steelers. It was also the right move for James Conner. He deserves to go to somewhere where he can get a clean slate, start fresh, and be their guy. And his ceiling is so high if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
He is a hard worker. He is a hard runner, and he is an overall good human being. Like people, you cheer for him because you want to see him do well. And Arizona will have no problem welcoming him with open arms. I think he's going to love it there. Yeah. They have a pretty awesome offense as it stands already. So I think he's going to be a valuable asset for them. But what does that mean for us? Like we're clearly drafting a running back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's getting more and more apparent literally by the day.
Yeah. And I think,
go ahead.
Yeah. I just think that was, everybody was kind of leaning in that direction to begin with, just based on the types of conversations that we were observing the Steelers having with guys at the pro days and stuff. But I think now that I don't think that they're going to draft another mid-round running back. I think that it really looks like they're going to gun for a running back in the first round for a guy that they can just put in and play immediately, because they don't have that. They don't have that on the team right now. Like they can't take a gamble on some maybe okay talent when we have two pretty unproven running backs right now. And that's it. Like they need to invest in a guy who's going to be able to carry the run game, because we saw what it was like when they didn't have any, and it was atrocious.
Yeah. Right. And that order came from the top down, right? Like we need a running game, period. Do what it takes to get the running game. And we ran a poll on Yinzhers yesterday on Twitter, asking fans, out of the top 3 running backs that we have been linked to, Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams, who they would rather see Mike Tomlin call, whether it's that first day of the draft or day 2. If it's Javonte Williams, I assume that would be a second round pick. I'm not sure about Etienne at this point. He could go in the first, especially if Najee goes before number 24. Yeah. The overwhelming majority, 69% of almost 4,000 votes, wanted Najee Harris. And far, far behind that at 13% was Travis Etienne. And then a little bit behind that was Javonte Williams. Other people were asking for guys like Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know that Najee Harris will be there at 24, but my personal preference is Etienne. I think that he is the perfect guy for this system. I also really like Javonte Williams. He's like a smaller version of Najee Harris, but has less wear and tear, and he's younger, and he runs very similarly to him. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
It is. And I think because this pick is going towards them being all in this year. So yeah, you're right. Najee Harris has a good bit more mileage on his body, but if they're going all in this year, they don't really have to think much further past this year. So they don't necessarily need to make a 5-10 year investment on a running back, which is just absurd at this point anyway. Like the running back shelf life is just so much shorter than it used to be. But I don't know. I really don't know. All 3 of those names are really solid though. So
I would
that's
be happy
exciting.
with any of them, to be honest with you. Any of those 3 guys, I will be thrilled. I will be, as long as we give them the line, right? Like we get any of them, we don't upgrade the line, then we're doing them a disservice, to be honest with you.
And we're just going to be frustrated and screaming all season again. So please don't do that.
Oh my God, please.
Please.
Yeah. Which I think they will though. Cause as much as it's pointing towards them picking a running back early on, there are so many signs that they're going to invest in the line as well. And now that, we'll get to the other stuff in a minute. But yeah, free agency signings, there have been a few, not really splashy. We're not that team.
Typical Steelers fashion.
I know. Defensive end Abdullah Anderson, TJ Carter, and then we got a linebacker, Jameer Jones. I don't really know much about any of those guys. So my thoughts are, I mean, it adds some depth. It solidifies some positions. What are your thoughts on those signings?
I know that they're all young-ish. Relatively new to the league. I think that Jameer Jones is 22 years old. Like, these are some young guys. It also tells me all of these signings being on the defensive side of the ball, that we're looking to the draft to get that offensive line that we have been talking about. We haven't, I mean, we brought in BJ Finney. Like, we have options on that line. I hate to say it. I hate to call anybody a camp body, but that's what these signings seem like to me.
Yeah.
Those are the vibes.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of think they're all depth pieces. I don't really see beyond that. I mean, we could be surprised. It could turn into something else, but it seems like they're mainly all signed for depth.
And that's what you love to see, right? Like, you'd love to see a guy who you don't recognize his name. He comes in as kind of an unknown chess piece, and he turns out to be in training camp a stud. Like, you love to see that, right? That's the Cinderella story that we all love in the NFL. And, you know, I would love to see any of these guys. I would love to see any of these guys, you know, step up and earn a roster spot. That's exciting. And that's why these free agent signings that we always bring in, you know, Deontay Spencer from the CFL that one year. I mean, that dude should have made the team. He was a stud, and now he's killing it in Denver. So just because we're not recognizing the names, you know, who knows? It could be an awesome thing. So I'm excited for them. I'm excited for their opportunity. Additionally, the biggest news out of today, Vince Williams is returning. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
I could have cried when I read that.
Honest to God. I mean, that was an emotional moment today, because when the Steelers released Vince, it was kind of anticipated because his cap hit was relatively big. So we alleviated some cap space. And I remember saying to Stryker right before it happened, if we cut Vince, I could see him coming back on a new contract for less money. And you know, everyone knows Vince loves Pittsburgh. He is extremely vocal about how much he loves this city, loves this team. And, you know, he's such a leader on that side of the ball. Couldn't be a better day in my house as far as the Steelers go.
That was huge, just so huge. And that kind of eliminates their need to draft potentially a linebacker, which would have not wasted, but wasted a pick.
Right.
It gives us more leniency to hit some of those other needs that we have, and to have a veteran presence there, who maybe we're going to swap in and out with Spillane or something like that. You know, it'll be interesting to see how we utilize him. He's great against the run. I love Vince against the run. So, I've been smiling all day. Like, it is such good news.
Yep. I almost didn't believe it at first when I saw it. It's like, no. What? Wait, what?
I know, because it was so unexpected. Like, we're in the middle of signing all these free agents. We don't know who they are. And bam, Vince Williams is back. I mean,
that's how you know, like, you get kind of annoyed with the Steelers because they're like so quiet and like little moves, but again, nothing big and flashy. And you're like, oh, this is boring. Like, okay, give me something good. And then bam, Vince Williams is back. And you're just like, wait, what? Is that right? Fake? Who made that up? Like, then you're just you're like, usually, I don't know, but I don't know. It's kind of weird when there's no speculation. Like, we've talked about it on the podcast. Did we do a buy sell of that? Because I know we all talked about this. I feel like, I don't know. I know we talked about it. And we kind of all were leaning towards the side because he didn't sign anywhere immediately. And that's when you're like, ooh, okay,
there's hope.
There's hope. Same thing with Juju. You're like, there's hope.
Right. Every time a receiver signed, we were like, okay, hope is alive. There's light at the end of the tunnel. That's how this felt for sure.
It feels so good.
We're so happy you're back. Come on the podcast anytime. We'd love to kick it with you. You know, we could be Borden, Bamantha, and Borgen.
That's
if you really want,
That's right. Oh my God. See, he couldn't have left. Like there's too much history there. Like
Steeler for life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's just great. I'm so happy he's back.
He's one of those guys that like you look at and you're like, you were just destined to be on this team, right? He's got the attitude, he's got the fire, like he's a Steeler through and through, and I'm just pumped to have him back.
When he showed up to training camp in like that leather vest and nothing else, like it just doesn't get better than that.
A little belt too with him. I feel like 100%. Like
love. So much love.
Great. Yeah. So tonight's episode's a little bit different because we don't have a guest and we're just the three of us. So we did take questions from Twitter. So should we dive into those?
Let's do it.
Yes.
I'll start. This is an interesting username from Owen_Peg with 2 G's. So hopefully that's right.
Double G.
Double G. Why is the fan base having trouble getting behind Benny Snell?
Mergen and Benny Smell.
In my opinion,
I'm dead.
He been given a fair chance. Everyone should just ignore me. It's not the campaign. I'm just an idiot today. My bio next.
Idiot today.
Today.
You know, it might be because his last name's Smell.
Yeah,
it's hard. No one wants a jersey with the last name Smell.
Yeah.
Oh, Snell, you're a running back and last name Snell. Or I concede. I should tap out right now. Just shut up.
Just tap out. I think Benny Snell has been given a fair chance. I think that we have seen out of Benny Snell what he does when he's given a start, several starts. I think we've seen out of Benny Snell what he does in situations where we need him to hold on to the ball, gain in short yardage, fight for yardage after contact. I like Benny Snell. I do. I don't love him as a starting feature back. He's just not one. I hate to label anyone as, oh, he's just not. But I do think with the sample size that we've seen out of Benny Snell, he's a great third down back. I'm not going to back him as a feature back. I think that we still need a running back to run the ball in front of him.
Yeah, I would say the reason that I can't really get on board with him as a feature back, like our offensive line is trash. We all know it. So he wasn't really done any favors there by the offensive line. However, it's not his ability so much as it is his vision that concerns me, because he would completely miss seams and holes and run straight into the back of one of our offensive linemen. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just carelessness or if he just doesn't have that capability to like process information in that way as a feature back should, like finding the holes and running through a lot, you know, I just feel like that's his biggest issue, and that may or may not be something that you can overcome. And I just don't necessarily feel like I would put, especially if we're assuming this is Ben's last year and they're going to do everything they can to win a Super Bowl this year, I would not put my eggs in the Benny Smell basket. I'm going to pass on that.
He doesn't have the tools that I want to see out of a feature back running behind a line that's not the best in the league. Like he's not slippery. He's not super elusive. When he gets if he's going to run outside and he can like get it around the edge. Okay. Like then we're talking and I see something out of him when he's in space. But the issue that I see with Benny is like he doesn't have the vision and the patience that Le'Veon Bell had. Yeah. He doesn't have the elusiveness of Willie Parker. Like there are things that I want to see out of him if we're going to give him the ball to start that I just haven't seen yet. And I think that the sample size is large enough to make that assessment.
I'd agree on everything you guys both said. I'm kind of shocked that someone thinks that he hasn't been given a fair chance, because I really think that he has.
A lot of people, it's like, I feel the same way about certain guys. I'm like, I really like what I've seen out of, we could talk about James Washington. Like, I really like what I've seen out of James Washington. Why isn't he getting more play? Like, why isn't he getting more playing time? You feel attachments to certain players who you remember their great moments, and you wonder why.
Yeah.
And Benny Snell has had some great moments. Like, he really, really has. I credit him for that, and he deserves that credit. And I want him on this team. I want him as one of our running backs. I just don't think that, given what we've seen, like we said, not a starter. But I understand wanting to see more out of him. I do, because we've seen the flashes, but we know who he is.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. I think that having him in that backfield in some capacity will be beneficial. He just kind of has to find his place, I think. And that is still, it's yet to be determined. And hopefully Matt Canada will work with the offense and figure that out and bring out the best in him. But I don't know. We'll see. The next question comes from Suarez XIMB. Hello. Thanks for your question. So they asked, we have managed to bring Juju, Alualu, Banner, Sutton, and Williams back. But if you could bring back one player who is already signed with another team or is still an unrestricted free agent, who would it be? Mike Hilton. Boom. That's my answer.
Bud Dupree.
That's going to be my initial response. Which, if money was no issue, both of them were such huge losses.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is tough, because I like Alex Highsmith a lot, which is why when Bud left, was like, oh, you know what? Like, it sucks because we love Bud and he's our guy. Like, he's been our guy. But I have immense faith in what Alex Highsmith brings to the table. And I think that he has potential to be one of the best in the league at his position. And so it's hard for me to say, oh, I want to bring back Bud, but it's, we have Bud and TJ together is just like magic. And I know that TJ will have the same kind of relationship with Highsmith. I'm not worried about that. So I almost feel bad saying I would bring back Bud, but I would bring back Bud.
He's just so good. He's so good. And honestly, like it was hard for me to not pick him when I was looking over these questions, but the more I kind of dissected it and felt like, okay, what would be the bigger need on the team? Not so much like, who do I enjoy watching, Bud, hands down. I loved watching him play. But like, if you look at our front seven, and I did an article on Stephon Tuitt today. So I was watching through footage of certain games from the last season. Like, our front seven was locked down, even after Bud went out or up until the end. But really, really great at putting pressure on the quarterback, defending against the run. Like, with guys like Cam and Stephon Tuitt, and then Alualu coming back, and TJ and Alex Highsmith, who has a ton of potential. Like, our secondary is still the area that is really like iffy in my mind and needs a little bit more TLC. So that's why I answered Mike Hilton, because I feel like I would have especially with Steven Nelson leaving, regardless of how that all played out on a personal level, like our secondary is not what it was. And if we could have, and I'm still, now the Steelers have kind of like, I feel like one of Pavlov's dogs. I'm waiting, like they're ringing the bell, and I'm like, okay, so Mike Hilton's coming back, right? He's coming back. Announce Mike Hilton changed his mind and he's coming back. You told me. You told me.
Yeah, I think my emotional reaction is to Bud, because again, just watching him develop and transform into the player he was, and I will be the first to admit. I mean, you could probably look through my old tweets that I was not a big Bud Dupree fan. I did not. I was just not impressed, and then obviously turned around and turned into this amazing player. But yes, emotional reaction, Bud. Logical reaction, if you dissected it, would be Mike Hilton. But on hindsight of that, I don't think nobody saw Steven Nelson leaving. Like I didn't think that was happening. So.
No. And he still has not signed anywhere. My dad was talking today about the potential, because we're seeing all these guys come back for less money and come back because they want to be in Pittsburgh, which is amazing because so many people want to talk about this toxic culture and Mike Tomlin's toxic culture. Like, okay, sure. I'm sure that's why people want to come back for less money and play for him. But my dad today was like, I wonder if Steven Nelson might come back. And I think at this point, the damage has been done. The way that his departure was handled on his end, it just spoke volumes to me personally. If I'm the Steelers front office, like this guy made us look really bad on social media in a form where you can pretty much say whatever you want and people will take your word for it. And I could definitely see Steven Nelson being offered less money elsewhere and being unhappy that he didn't stay in Pittsburgh. But he's not going to come back.
I guess the stigma just to me is weird because from what I'm still understanding about this entire thing was that basically he didn't like that he was having to compete for the starting role. And it's like, I don't think any NFL player should ever be comfortable enough in their position that they don't think that they're fighting for the starting position. I just don't.
I agree.
It doesn't make sense to me.
And I feel like most competitors would agree with that sentiment. Like I don't know what is true with that, what isn't, but I feel like the way he presented himself on social media definitely indicated that could be 100% true, because what are you doing? You're going after your former teammates. Yeah. Like what? That's a terrible look. So I wouldn't at all be surprised if that was his mentality and his take on things. And what are you doing in the NFL if you don't want to fight for your spot, guys? You're a competitor. You should want that competition.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me how someone who is in one of the most competitive professional leagues in the world doesn't want to compete and earn the position. Like, I don't know many football players who look at their job as something they want to say they didn't earn. Like, I got that shit. Like, I did that. Competitive people want that. No one wants to just be handed. I mean, people want to just be
iron sharpens iron, right? Is that like
exactly.
Like you can't. Yeah.
Competitive people want to earn their jobs. They want to earn their recognition. And I see that in a ton of our players. And, if Nelson didn't want to earn continually day in and day out, earn his job, that's his prerogative. And he can go, be handed a job elsewhere and that's fine. And that's good for him. And I hope he gets his money. But next question, since we got kind of off track there, comes from In Boz We Trust. Thank you for your question. He says, I've been saying since Dobbs beat Jones for the second quarterback spot a few years back that Dobbs is our next starting quarterback. With him being re-signed today, am I being proved right, or am I clinging on to a fantasy? Dude, no, you're clinging on to a fantasy. Josh Dobbs will never be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I will tell you this. The Steelers like Josh Dobbs because of his brain. They love his football IQ. He's a literal rocket scientist. He is a literal rocket scientist. They love his football IQ. They love what he brings to the table creatively. You see Ben after every series going and consulting with Josh Dobbs to see what he thought about the certain plays that were called. We all know against Cleveland, Josh Dobbs made the call on that double move route by James Washington for that touchdown. That was Josh Dobbs' idea. I think that they're bringing Josh Dobbs back because number one, he can be used situationally in games, but they really, really, really like his mind, his football mind, combining that creativity with a Matt Canada offense. Like, I'm excited to see what's kind of play that brings to the table, like how the playbook opens up when we have a guy like Josh Dobbs, not necessarily under center, but on the sideline contributing to the game in that way. I also think, he's pretty good competition for Dwayne Haskins in training camp. They, we'll see. I think he'll be on the roster next year, but I think it's going to be because they like the way he thinks and his football mind. So.
And there was even kind of some indication that they might try to utilize him, not in the same way, but in a similar type of flex role, like Taysom Hill down in New Orleans. Like I can't remember what the game was.
It was the game before. It was Cleveland.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. And they kind of threw him in, and it worked. It worked. It worked really well. And it felt like, oh, maybe they do have a place for him. But at the same time, you can only do that so much before other teams start predicting it and planning for it. But I am with you. I don't think he's ever going to be the starter. Even if he is the starter, he's never going to be the guy. Like he's not our franchise quarterback. He is kind of more enlisted in sort of like a play calling role and just being an observer from the sidelines with his immense amount of knowledge. Yeah, I don't see that happening.
He's got such vision and a unique understanding of the game that I think elevates the people around him. So we're utilizing him to help Ben, draw up plays in the dirt, that maybe our offensive coordinator last year, Randy Feitner, wasn't coming up with himself, which is why Ben looks to guys like Josh Dobbs to, hey, what should we do next? And Ben was very forthcoming with the fact that James Washington touchdown route was Josh Dobbs' idea. Yeah. And I think that Dobbs could thrive in an offensive coordinator kind of position. Yeah. So maybe that's why we're keeping him around, because they want him to work with Matt Canada. I don't know, but
funny you say that.
Sorry, in Boz we trust.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. Like, no, he's never going to be the guy. But because they were taking so long on signing him, I was like, are they trying to find a position for him in a coaching asset? Because he is so freaking smart and because he is so creative. And we did see that last year. Right. I guess with another, 1-year deal that you have, I think it was it 1 year? I think it was 1 year.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
you're right.
1 year. It gives them, another chance to see, okay, how creative is he? And it still is that kind of surprise weapon that they can't have.
Right.
But I don't know, he's so smart. He's so creative. I mean, and to give credit like that from the players, like they just know, like, hey, what can we do? Like, you see them over there on the sideline talking. You see Ben talking to Josh Dobbs all the time on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
So our next question is from Dara Nelson. What position should we draft first and why?
Running back. I think running back at this point, because looking at the talent that's there, it makes more sense to invest in that role up front. Because if you're going to wait until if you're going to risk it and try to get one of those guys second round because they're still kind of hanging around, I don't know, maybe, but if you're going to wait until the third or fourth round to draft a running back, then don't draft a running back. Just roll with the guys that you have because they already know the system. Take a position that you need a little bit more potentially. Like I just think that the running back talent, especially the names that we mentioned earlier, they're just too good to pass up on if that is what looks like their top priority. And we've mentioned before, when Kevin Colbert sets his sights on somebody, he doesn't tend to hone in on guys unless he knows they're worth it. And he does whatever it takes to get those guys. And that's why they rarely ever make splashy signings in free agency, because he's able to look at the whole picture and see who best fits the needs of the team. And since what we're kind of seeing is that they're gravitating towards drafting a running back early on, then I say bite the bullet, do it early, get the best running back that's available, and then pad the line the rest of the way. Center, tackle, guard, go for it. Get as many guys as you can to make room for him to run the crap out of the ball.
I like it. I don't know if I want on the first day to take a running back. And maybe that's because I don't think Najee Harris is our guy. Maybe that's why, because I think if we take a running back first day, it's Najee Harris. So I don't know. This is a really hard question for me, because I think that running back and center are our top two needs, right? This draft is not super deep at the center position. In fact, I think there's only one center that I would go with this draft, and he's going to be gone in the first round and possibly before we even pick. So I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Tough.
I'll be good with a center or a running back in the first round. Okay, like as long as we're addressing the extreme weaknesses on this team, and we're not drafting a wide receiver or a position that we do not need.
Yeah,
I honestly do not want to see a wide receiver drafted, and
at all. Me neither.
We do not need one. I'm sorry, that it's so deep. We do not need one on that team. Our wide receiver is solid. It's not something, that I would want to waste a pick on. So
it would be turning into an episode of Hoarders, NFL edition. Like they just can't help themselves. Like there's a wide receiver, we need to take them and keep them.
An entire room of them.
Yeah. Cool it on the wide receivers. Like, yeah, we're good. Especially with Juju coming back. Like, dude, don't waste a pick. And also maybe don't get a quarterback.
I think the Juju story is even so much better now that Tyson returned and Ben's back. Like it's just so much better because you don't have that narrative.
Yep. It really
those players.
Yeah.
Juju. And so it's really just come full circle.
Yeah. Everything works out and guys want to be here, and that's awesome. And yeah, I love it. Just, don't draft a wide receiver. That's the takeaway. We don't necessarily know for sure what they should do with their first pick, but we know that all of their picks should not include wide receiver. So
correct.
Clear. Awesome. Great. So the next question from Deanna is, if you could bring back one player in Steelers history, who would it be and why?
I love this question.
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Troy Polamalu.
I mean, that's the obvious answer, right? Like,
it's like, oh, Troy.
Immediately when I read this question, my brain went to Troy. I mean, where else does it go first thing? But then as I thought through it, I was, thinking about the needs on this team. And I mean, how amazing would it be to see Troy and Minka in the secondary together? Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. But on this team with the needs that we currently have, I'm going to go with Jerome Bettis.
Okay.
I miss having that kind of runner on this team.
Yeah.
Honestly,
and with a guy, it's been a long time. It's been since we've had one. Since Bettis, since 2006.
Yeah.
But even with, you trust Jerome Bettis to carry the ball anywhere, like behind any line. So that's, I got to go with Bettis here.
So I'm torn between going with a player that I grew up watching and would just love to watch play again, or a player that I didn't get to see, like somebody from the dynasty in the 70s, like
Jack
Lambert, Jack Ham, Joe Green, any number of those guys. Like they wouldn't fit in today's NFL. So from a realistic standpoint, their style just wouldn't fly. They'd be arrested for murdering the referee who called roughing the passer on them. Like, it would just not be a very productive experience, I think. But I would love to have lived to see those guys play football. And even like Terry Bradshaw, like he was like very, very good quarterback. And the receivers
you could
on that
bring
team,
back a
like,
guy. You could bring back a guy like Mike Webster, like that position.
Yeah.
Center still is, relatively the same as it was back then. There are certain positions that still play this year, like now in the 2020s.
Yeah.
In this decade of football. And I think that would be interesting. But you're right. Like, there's so many, I mean, even guys like Franco Harris, like it just wouldn't translate.
I think so. If we're going from a practical standpoint, thinking like who was awesome, who did I love who did I love watching play, and what do we need? I would probably pick Alan Faneca. Like, if we could have him on the line.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he was so good. And just he wrecked guys. Like, he was a force on that line. And
I mean,
so I guess that's my answer from a practical and sentimental standpoint.
That's a great answer.
Yes.
Great. Let's bring all three of them back. Let's just
100% just emotional, because I could have watched Troy play for 100 more years, which there's many of them we could say about that.
Right. We'll bring all of them back. Throw James Harrison in there for good measure.
Perfect.
We're good to go.
Yeah.
We're good to go.
What more do we need? Yeah. They did win a Super Bowl.
His workout videos still pop up, and I'm just like, I don't know how it's humanly possible someone is that strong. Just
today when
playing anymore.
Today when all of that Aaron Donald stuff came out, I saw a poll on Twitter that was like, who would you least want to get in a fight with? And it was like Aaron Donald, James Harrison, and like, I don't know, Pac-Man Jones or something like that. And James Harrison was the one who was winning the poll. And I kind of agree with that. I think that is the scariest of the three.
Yeah. He flipped a dude on the football field. No thoughts about, like, it was like he turned into a robot. Like, he had no emotions, no thoughts. He was just
he could pick one of us up by our ankle and just hold us
with one hand, like it's nothing,
like, easily.
Yeah.
Like,
that dude is wild,
just insane. No, thank you.
But I love him.
Yeah.
Again,
so
also,
much.
I don't really know the whole Aaron Donald story, so I could be completely wrong on this. I haven't seen anything really out about what transpired other than it was in a bar. But I'm like, you picked Aaron Donald in a bar to fight?
Like, how that guy had to have been just blacked out of his mind.
Yeah.
Like, to pick a fight with Aaron Donald, and it was an after hours bar on the South Side.
Yeah.
So like, y'all come. I mean,
God, not what a certified ding dong. Yeah.
Jordan, you need to go to that bar and get the tea.
Yeah. So
they're all
what
day
happened?
Listen.
We need you to be an investigative reporter.
I'm on it.
There you go.
Oh my God.
Live on the South Side. Jordan DeFigio reporting for Yinzhers.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
All right. Next question. We got Colin Griffith asking, who is the most underrated player on the Steelers roster? Colin, thank you so much. You said that you think it's James Washington. I couldn't agree more. I say it all the time. James Washington's talent is up here. His utilization is down here. I will never understand it. For the life of me, I won't. He plays with ferocity, but he is like humble and quiet and runs a great route, and he's strong and fights for yards. I mean, he reminds me in a lot of ways of Juju, and you know how I feel about how Juju plays football. So I don't understand it. I don't get it, but he is the most underutilized player on that team, if not in the entire NFL, based on how talented he is.
Yeah. My initial response was James Washington, and then part of me wants to just go to Kevin Dotson, and it's not because maybe we as fans underrate him, but because of the way he wasn't utilized last year, and I feel like he had so much more potential.
Yeah, I 100% agree. When they sat him in favor of, I think it was Matt Filer, whoever came back from injury, was like, what are you doing? Get out of here with that nonsense.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense, especially after how Dotson had been playing. I mean, lights out. That kid was in his first year dominating veterans. Like, I don't understand the thought process there. I mean, I guess in a way, like there are some positions that are like, you know, you still aren't going to sit them for a rookie because they've earned that spot so far. But in the position that we were in, fighting for a bye or fighting for a playoff spot at one point, fighting for the AFC North, like, don't you put your best players in, the guys who give you the best chance of winning? I will never understand that. If I have one knock on Mike Tomlin, that's it. And it goes beyond the decision to punt. So
there were so many non-decisions that were made that were questionable there, especially in that game. Yeah. But I think for me, Stephon Tuitt is the most underrated. Like, and I've even found it in myself. Like I mentioned that article earlier, but I wrote an article today about Stephon Tuitt being underrated. And like, I realized whenever I was trying to like comfort myself after the loss of at this point in time, I still thought Vince Williams was gone. So I was like, we lost Bud and Vince and Steven Nelson and Mike Hilton, and now all we're left with is Cam and TJ. What are we going to do? And then I'm like, hold up, Jordan. Stephon Tuitt, what, like, he just always slips my mind. And I'm like, look at the season that he had last year. He was insane. And it's super easy to overlook anybody whenever they're playing next to Cam Hayward and in front of TJ Watt, and Minkah Fitzpatrick is off in the backfield or the secondary. Like, it's very easy to just kind of forget about a guy who quietly plays at that level when they don't have that kind of like that, whatever Dale Lawley said, the name value, or I can't remember,
it's not like a household name.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when he got hurt last year, we felt that. Like, we really felt the loss of Stephon Tuitt, and him coming back this year and playing at the level that he was able to play at, just sheer dominance. The fans don't underrate him and the team doesn't underrate him, but the NFL as a whole and NFL media underrates this guy so much. I mean, he is monumentally valuable to that defense and to this team. And I mean, all great answers there.
Any perspective you spend those, again, we have probably a lot of underrated or underutilized players in certain games or circumstances where it does make you really frustrated and just want to scream and say, why didn't you put him in? Why didn't you use him this way? And I don't know, what's done is done. And so our next question is from Dominic Fitz 39, and he says, who do you expect to have the biggest year this season out of last year's draft class? Which
that's so hard.
I feel like
I would say Kevin Dotson, because like you mentioned, he in the couple games where he was in, he stepped up big time. So I think that in that elevated role, he's really gonna shine. And I can't wait to watch it.
There are 3 options for me. It's either going to be Claypool, Dotson, or Alex Highsmith. And one of them, if not all 3 of them, are going to have huge years. I agree. Like Dotson being elevated into that starting position in that role and consistently playing on that line is going to be huge. And I think that he'll rise to that occasion. Same with Alex Highsmith, given that role. And what we saw out of him last year after Bud went down, I mean, I could just see him absolutely going off. And now that we can't see, now that Mike Tomlin can't say that there's a rookie wall that Chase Claypool is going to hit halfway into the season, you know,
sophomore wall.
If we can get Ben to hold on to the ball long enough to see that Chase Claypool's open, because that was half the problem last year. He'd go to his first guy and Chase Claypool would be wide open on the other side of the field. You know, I don't know.
Chase Claypool open and available. I mean, he's a monster, first of all, just his size, his athletic ability. It's going to give that wide receiver core so many opportunities. It just has to be presented to him, in my opinion.
The thing about Claypool having a monster year is it's largely dependent on Ben, right? Dotson having a monster year and Highsmith having a monster year, that's dependent on themselves. Like that is just them, right? Claypool has to rely on someone else to throw him the ball. So, you know, that's a harder one to assess as far as expectation goes, but the talent's there. We all know the talent's there. If we can get Ben to, you know, skip over his first 2 reads and see that Claypool's open. I mean, that was one of the most frustrating parts of last season, the second half of last season, because when Ben would be getting the ball out quick, there were so many times that I would look over and see Claypool open.
Yeah.
And he makes insane catches. So like, even if Ben's not, you know, putting it in his hands, like get it near him. You know what I mean? So that was frustrating. Any of those 3 next year are just gonna, I expect them all to
probably
go
all
off.
3.
I was just gonna say, hopefully all 3.
Their positions aren't dependent on each other, or you know, if Claypool does well, it's not going to affect Kevin Dotson per se doing well, and so that's
it's not a mutually exclusive thing.
I don't
they
think
can all be great.
Yeah, I don't think Claypool's going to have honestly astronomical numbers, but again, that's because he's not the AB diva, and I hate to even go back to that, but we're spreading the ball around. We are spreading the ball around. It's not, I don't know. I don't think that we have a true wide receiver one. Like, it's just as what we saw last year, we didn't.
Well, you could even just like spin it like the year that San Francisco went to the Super Bowl, whenever that was, a lifetime ago. I don't know. I think it was in 2020, but I think it was 2020 against the Chiefs, right? Yeah, regardless, whenever they last made it to the Super Bowl, they had a running back by committee approach. So like, why is it so unreasonable to think of the wide receiver position as kind of the same thing, a wide receiver by committee approach? That's why you have more than one on the field at the same time. Like, I think that, I hope that maybe they can use that to their advantage. Like, we don't have a guy who's begging for targets all the time. So let's make the most of it and spread the love a little bit. And a lot of that is contingent on them developing a run game, but
right.
You know.
And Ben's really good at that. He has his receivers that I think favors just because he knows that he can trust them.
Yeah.
But he's really good at spreading the ball out. If we can just get him to hold on a little bit longer, and that also, that depends on the line, and there's so many factors at play here.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's switch it up though. The next question from Petty Lane, hi Grace, is if you could have a podcast about any other topic, what would it be and why? And I don't
question.
Yeah, I don't know why when I read that, the first thing that popped into my mind was like drunk history, but for true crime. Like I think that would be so fun to and I swear I'm not an alcoholic, but like I think drunk history is just one of the funniest things. And
by a landslide.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so good.
And
So good.
if you were to let me just kind of like get there and then talk about true crime, I feel like
Can we make that?
Yeah, why
Can we-
not? We can.
Let's
We have the
just
equipment.
make it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a good trademark that.
Yeah.
Seriously.
What are we gonna
We
call
should
it?
put that out there.
Drunk crime.
Oh, crap.
I'm actually writing
call-
it down because
Justin, if you're watching, can you add that to our list of things?
Lit
Brandon.
crime.
Someone on Steeler Nation.
oh my word. God almighty.
Oh my God, that's so good.
They're like, why did we bring these women on? All their demands. Can we get jackets? Can we get this? Can we get this?
Yep. More, please.
Please.
Amazing. I don't know how I follow that up because like that's I mean, that is the best podcast idea I've heard in a long time.
I'm just so boring. So literally all I do is watch sports and eat food. So that's all I have going. for me.
Food.
Food.
Yeah,
reviews.
food pot. Yeah. Yes. Food reviews, Sam.
That would be me.
I would listen.
Do like weird foods, like like an Andrew Zimmern bizarre foods kind of thing, where you're eating just like
That might
weird
turn into like a
stuff.
weird fetish and people just are like into gagging or something. So I'm not.
I mean, that's how you make your money. That's where the big bucks are.
You just have to set yourself up for with like a financial cushion, and then you can do whatever you want. You can really
Right.
branch off.
Like an OnlyFans, but for eating weird food.
Yeah, exactly.
If that's a thing.
Yes. Anything can be a thing.
God, mine would be about Japan. I know no one's surprised, and that's not creative, but like I would do like a travel podcast. So I would fly to Japan and just like podcast all the weird shit that I do, because Japan is notorious for just, I mean, they have vending machines that I shouldn't talk about it. They have some weird shit over there, but
Okay.
I feel like you have to say what it is now. Morgan. I'm like,
apparently, and I have not seen this. And I lived in Japan, so that says something that I haven't seen this. Maybe I'm just going to the right areas. But apparently in Japan, you can get women's underwear in a vending machine and like creepy men buy them. Yeah.
There's some weirdos. I at one point in my life was selling something on like OfferUp, and some guy messaged me there and asked me if he could buy my used underwear, and I was like, this is bizarre, and took a very left turn.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna delete this app now, but yeah, I could see there's some, again, very weird.
DMs on Instagram asking to buy shoes. You know, people are weird. But Japan is like all about nourishing people's weirdness. So, you know, maybe that's what my podcast is about. Weird shit that you can find in Japanese vending machines.
Oh my God. There you go. It's a moneymaker.
I can't.
Speaking of weird shit, our next question comes from the self-proclaimed biggest Yinzhers fan, Malik. Hi, Malik. Thank you.
He loves the Steelers, right? He's like biggest.
He is honestly like obsessed, and it's more like his bedroom is more decorated than yours.
I figured,
Jordan.
yeah.
Like he's so obsessed. Steelers he loves Big Ben. I mean, he should have his own Steelers podcast. But Malik says, hi, love your show, obsessed with all of you. Why did your franchise let your top cornerbacks leave to bring back a TikTok boy? Well, Malik,
thanks for the love. First of all, that was so kind of you.
Exactly. Like, we love that you love us.
Yeah.
Secondly, here's the thing, Malik. They didn't. That's not how this works. I know that the salary cap is kind of a difficult thing to grasp. You'll get it one day, little one.
When you graduate, it'll click. Yeah.
Right when you bedtime right now.
I know you're probably not listening. You're probably asleep. It's late.
That's okay.
But here's the thing. Juju's cap hit was 2.5 million maybe this year. Did not mean that Mike Hilton and Steven Nelson had to leave to maintain Juju for a $2.5 million cap hit? I don't know how many ways I have to say it. I know you've read it a million times on Twitter and somehow it's still not registering. But because you love us so much, we thought that we would take the time to answer your question tonight. So thanks for being a fan. Sleep well, little one.
Yeah, we love you so much.
Kisses.
Yeah.
Might have to add him back into our group chat so we can see the response tomorrow. But for those of you guys that don't know, I'm gonna spill the tea on Malik. He's 17 years old.
And he's a Ravens fan.
He's a Ravens fan troll.
Should make a lot more sense to you guys now.
Yes, he trolls us night and day because, like I said, he's obsessed.
It's great fun.
So thanks for your question, Malik. Appreciate you.
Oh, he's so funny. Our next segment is our buy and sell segment, which I actually adore because these questions are so fun to come up with every week.
Yeah, it's the best.
Brought to you by Infinity Trades X. If you're interested in learning about the stock market or want some tips and trades, it's not like a book where they're going to just feed you the answers, but where you can actually learn about the stock market and how it operates. I suggest going there. It's Infinity Trades X on Twitter or infinitytradesx.com. They also have cool merchandise. So
love it.
Buy or sell question of tonight is if the league votes to approve it, should players be allowed to change their numbers? Jordan.
I say, yeah, why not? I also just kind of love chaos. I spent so much of my life hating change that whenever I started embracing it, I was like, change everything all the time, change it. So I mean, if they want to, why stop them? Like, I understand. I mean, I have a wall covered in jerseys, so that might F up some things for me, but like, it's I don't know how much of those jersey sales the players are actually seeing, but like, it's an opportunity for them to mix it up and have more jersey sales for themselves. Like, and I think I was never really a fan of the fact that there was a disconnect between the numbering in college and the numbering in the NFL. Like, I feel like why be so different? Let them carry their numbers over. If he's a wide receiver and his number's 6, let him wear 6. Like, who cares? It's not that big of a deal. So I'm buying that players should be allowed to, or players should change their numbers if they want to.
I'm torn on this one because, when Kobe changed his number, his first jersey value skyrocketed because they were no longer making them, right? So if we're looking at it that way, and we're looking at these jerseys like Minka Fitzpatrick 39, Juju Smith-Schuster 19, and Juju changes to 9. If somehow Boz gives that up and Juju changes to 9, like, does a number 19 jersey that is no longer in production gain a ton of value? And then all of a sudden it's a collector's item. And, it's such an interesting thought because economically, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I think that people could make a ton of money, but I think a lot of fans would be really pissed off about it because they've invested money in non-replica jerseys, authentic jerseys that are expensive, that have maybe been signed, and things that they value or that are sentimental. And, if a player all of a sudden is not wearing that number anymore, people might be pissed off about that. So I know that some players are, coming out already and saying like, hey, if this does happen, don't worry, I'm not going to change my number. But I don't see the harm in allowing them to if they want. I don't know. I guess I'm buying it with some caveats.
I think I'm buying it because I think that any player, honestly, in any position should be allowed to have the numbers that they want. My only concern would be is if they're still maintaining, quarterbacks have to have a certain number. If someone gets injured and you have to sign someone out of the blue and there's not a number available to them, are they given like basically a number 7 and say, here, go play in this because we don't have a jersey to give you?
Yeah, that'll get a little dicey, I think. And it all depends on I
think across the board it would just have to be not based on a skill position group.
Yeah, it would have to be clear cut.
Yeah.
For sure.
If that happens, also I have 3 Juju jerseys and I'm not selling them. So you know what? Don't deep me for those. Oh
God.
So that's where I'm at. I don't know. I guess I don't really care either way per se, buying, selling that, but I think it would have to be across the board because there would be no other way to do that.
Yeah, it'll be polarizing if it does happen. I think people will be split.
I'm there for the chaos of it for sure, but I do feel like it's going to be approved.
I think so too.
Going to be, so
we'll see.
That is our show tonight. So as always, thank you to Steeler Nation for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Be sure that you are following us on Twitter, or follow us if you aren't, at Yinzhers, YINZHERS on Twitter, and then on Instagram at Yinzhers Official.
And if you're not already, then be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Yinzhers. Thanks, guys.
See you then. Bye.